Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. Welcome back to our subject is CLE 4213 Teaching Values, Manners and Good Practices in Early Childhood Education. So this week we are going to look at Unit 2, which is the influence of culture in values and practices. So, our focus in this unit is on how culture will shape values and practices in education. Culture is like the invisible hand that guides how children learn what is right and what is wrong, polite or impolite. It's important because it influences how children understand the world around them. Remember, it's about instill a good manners, good practices in early childhood education. Okay, so let's get ready to explore how culture can play a role in our early childhood education. So, this will be the learning outcome for our unit. Okay, so first we want to talk about how to help children feel good about themselves by being responsible. Okay, so this can be done by encouraging them and showing appreciation for the effort. And then secondly, okay, to determine basic element of culture which include tradition, belief, and practices. And then lastly, we will discuss why culture diversity is important in early childhood education. So as we go through this learning outcome, I suggest you all also think how you can apply them in our own teaching practices. Okay, so remember by understanding and appreciating culture, we can create a more inclusive and respectful environment for our young learners. So let's start by looking at the concept of culture and how it shapes our world. Okay, so we start with generating awareness. Awareness is about understanding the norms, value, and principle that enrich our life. Okay, so awareness it's the foundation of how we interact with our surrounding or interact with the world. So next we have the development of culture. Children learn and absorb culture norm from those who are around them, like their family members or teachers or friends. Okay, so think of a culture as a human-made environment. So it can include both material and non-material products that are passed down through generation. So this means everything from the stories we tell to the tradition we follow. And then finally, culture is transmitted in many ways, whether it's through spoken words or written text. Culture traits are shared and preserved for future generations. So, this understanding can help us appreciate and maintain the rich diversity in early childhood education. Okay, so let's look deeper into understanding culture and its component. Okay, so first we'll look at material and non-material component. Material and non-material component can include both the physical item like clothes we wear, the food we eat, as well as intangible aspects such as values and the belief that we hold. So these components make up the visible and invisible aspect of a culture. Next, we have the pattern of behavior. These are the regular activities and routine that are common in the society. It is important to note how children are especially aware of this behavior. So they will pick up on this pattern quickly and adapt to them as they grow. Finally, let's consider cognitive and contextual mediation. Cognitive and contextual mediation is about how culture influences the way children understand the world around them. Their culture background deeply affect their perception and interpretation of experiences. So, understanding this element help us appreciate the richness and depth of culture, especially in how it shapes young mind in early childhood education. Okay, let's continue to look at a process detail of culture. Okay, the detailed process of culture. Understanding culture can involve looking at several important elements. Okay, so the first one we have rules of a behavior. So these rules are invisible. However, it helps guide us on how to act in different situations. For example, this rule can teach us how to hold a baby properly. Okay, next we look at culture is learned. Okay, so means that people learn culture rules from their family. Some family may hold on tradition more strongly than the others. Okay, so we also see that shared rules, okay, can play a big part in a children's life. Cultural groups usually borrow and share rules within each other, which can help culture evolve and also grow. And then we look at the characteristic of group. So this one is another point. Culture is something that belongs to groups of people, not something invented by one person. Okay. Lastly, there is unconscious influences. Usually, we do not realize that our thought and behavior are greatly shaped by cultural influences. It is something that is subtle but powerful aspect of the culture. So all of these elements together can help us to actually understand, to comprehend how culture can shape our life. Okay, now let's explore the different elements that make up a culture. Okay, so let's break it down, okay, one by one so that everyone understand this key component. So first one we have norm. Okay, norm are things that we do and feel normal about. Okay, something that is natural within the culture. So these are everyday actions that we might not even think about, but however they do shape how we live, eat, and how we interact. And then next we have language. Language isn't just about the word we speak, but also how we speak them. Language is a big part how we can connect to each other. And then we have festival. Okay, so festival are a special event that often involve specific types of clothing, food, as well as music. Okay, festival are a fun way to express and celebrate our culture. Okay, and then we have ritual and ceremony. This also important tradition. Okay, ritual and ceremony because this tradition is what hold deep meaning for many people. And also it usually passed down through generation. And then looking at clothing and or outfits. Okay, so these are what we wear. Okay, we clothing and outfits, they can say a lot about our culture. There are visual expression of who we are. Moving on, okay, food. Okay, this is the delicious part of the culture. It usually include traditional recipes, okay, and ways of eating them, okay, that are unique to different groups. Okay. Another one is music and dance. Okay. These are the artistic expression that use rhythm and movement so that they be able to convey emotion and tell stories. Okay. On top of that, we have social hierarchy. It's about society organizing themselves. All right. Usually it is organized into levels or classes. Okay? Symbols can include things like flags, national flowers, okay, or birds or animal. So they represent cultural identity. And then finally, art like miniatures, marbling, calligraphy. It's a creative way to showcase cultural heritage. So remember this element together, okay, create a rich tapestry that makes every culture unique. Okay, all right. So let's continue. All right, so let's continue with the importance of cultural diversity in early childhood education context. So first, when we talk about culturally responsive approach, okay, so we mean recognizing that children can absorb idea and values from both their families and teachers. These values form a part of the children's belief system and help them understand their identity within the community. Cultural rules will guide behavior and identity. For example, children learn how to interact with others and express themselves. Baby naturally will make sound, but this sound can meaning as they learn to communicate with their families. It's through this early interaction that children understand themselves and the world around them. Also, when children are around those different from them, they gain a broader understanding of diversity. This helps them develop empathy and adaptability, vital skills in our interconnected world. Okay, another way is to make responsible children feel good about themselves. Okay, so let's talk about reward and consequences. Reward consequences help children to understand that their action do actually have a result, whether it's good or bad. It's a simple way to guide them towards responsible behavior. Okay, so next, it is important to identify responsibility and use language that encourage responsibility. For example, we may say, nice way to follow through your responsibility. So these kinds of feedback help children to recognize and feel proud of their action. Another key point is to set an example. When you say something like, I'm going grocery shopping, that's my responsibility. You show your child how to take charge of their own tasks. Coaching your child to meet their responsibility is also another crucial aspect. This means giving them guidance but also allowing them to try on their own. We may discuss the importance of responsibility with them, which can help to reinforce why it's matter. And then finally, providing space and flexibility let children learn at their own pace. They need room to make mistakes and as well as grow. Remember, children take ownership of their action. It can help to build their self confidence and respect for themselves. Okay, so this is a lifelong skill that can benefit them in many ways. Yeah, let's continue to talk about helping children learn from their action and feelings. This is important for their growth and confidence. Okay, first, we want children to think about how they do and how they act. When they reflect, they actually learn about themselves and how to be better. Okay, and the next, it's also good for them to manage their emotion by understanding how others feel. This can help them to get along with people and also solve problems together. We also want to boost their self confidence. So, how can we do that? By letting them try new things and learn from experiences, they can feel more sure about themselves. Giving them time to explore makes them less afraid to try. And then we may also encourage for open conversation, talk openly. Okay, let them know that mistakes are okay and a part of their learning. We can use positive words to support them because this can help them to see mistake as a chance for them to learn and improve. Remember, children mistakes are their opportunity to learn and grow. So, as I mentioned just now, children mistakes are their opportunity to learn and grow. When children make mistakes, it is important for us as the adult to guide them in understanding what went wrong and how they can improve next time. So we can start by explaining that everyone does makes mistake and that's normal part of our life. So we can emphasize that mistake give children the chance to reflect and learn, which build their self-confidence and help them develop a problem-solving skills. We may also encourage them to view mistakes as positive learning moment. Okay, next, stress. We can stress on the significance of creating an environment, okay, where children can feel comfortable discussing their mistake openly, because this openness can foster for atmosphere of trust and continuation of learning. Okay, finally, remember, okay, by encouraging children to learn from their mistake, we are actually helping them to become more resilient and confident individual. Okay, finally, how are we going to set limits through thinking word? Okay, so this usually focus on getting children to follow rules right away, but this can lead to power struggles with children. For example, if you say, "Don't talk to me in that tone of voice," it might not help children to understand why they should change their behavior. Okay. Now let's talk about thinking words. These are used as positive statement or question. They help children think about their action and make better choices. For instance, saying, "You sound upset. I'll be glad to listen when your voice is as soft as mine." Okay, so this invites them to calm down and reflect. And then finally, active thinking put the responsibility on children to think and decide for themselves. It's about guiding them to self reflection without demanding what they should do. So, can you think of how you might respond in a situation like this? Okay, so that would be all for our unit this time. I hope everyone do get some takeouts from our units today. Until we see again, thank you everyone for listening. Assalamualaikum. Bye.